I don't want to go live. I get nervous. I freeze up.
And you are looking live at Super Bowl Radio Row in Las Vegas, Nevada. Charlie Batch is with us, former NFL great, and he's mesmerized by the 8x4 sign we've got with him on there.
I'm
Looks
impressed.
pretty good.
I'm impressed.
It's a good
Packing's a
likeness.
little tight, so it had to be a little small, Charlie.
Unbelievable that we had you on our Arrowhead Allies show right before the Chiefs-Lions season opener this year. Lions won that game, and the Lions did fall just short of the Super Bowl, though. Here we are, Chiefs and 49ers. Welcome to Las Vegas, my friend. You surviving okay so far? We got a long week ahead.
Hey, I'm surviving. This is a long day. It's been a long 24 hours so far because I got here because of the delays, and, of course, my bags didn't make it with me. So that was a challenge. You all had the same story?
No, that's our worst nightmare.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had to go back to the airport at midnight because they picked my bag because they didn't start delivering until 7 a.m. They said there's a 2 to 4 hour window to get your bag. And I'm like, well, I need to go get it. So a little lack of sleep today, but I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, your bags didn't make it here. Neither did the Detroit Lions. We were hoping for it. We were pulling for you, and that just would have been such a great story. Do you think Dan Campbell should have kicked that field goal?
You take the points.
You got to.
Yeah, you have to. And then when you don't, obviously we're talking about those particular decisions. I get it by being aggressive, but in that particular game, the way that their defense was playing up until that point, you have to now take the points because I didn't think that they were going to at least go out and, put 2 successful drives together, let alone 3 in that potential manner.
Well, here we are, the Chiefs. This is kind of old hat for them, trying to go back-to-back for the first time in 20 years since the Patriots did it in 03 and 04. When we talked about this Chiefs team going into the season, we were a little worried about the wide receiver room. That came to pass, but this team has really turned over a simple formula. Don't turn the ball over. This defense is playing great, and you're going to win. This team's a different team in the playoffs, are they not?
Yes, they are. And I mean, the manner, the aggressive approach that they take on the defensive side of the ball, they're just saying, hey, if we can now force you to punt, give Patrick with 1 or 2 extra possession, he's going to win it. That's the philosophy there. He's not going to go out there and make that, the terrible decision that's going to cost you the game. And that philosophy allowed them and propelled them, especially when you're playing against a tough Baltimore team. So I like where they're at. It's just a matter of, after a while, you just get like another Super Bowl for Patrick Mahomes here.
I know.
But I love it. And I love it only because, and this is even when Tom Brady was going through his run, right? It was, as long as the Steelers weren't playing, I was rooting for Tom because I'm like, we'll probably never see this record broken again. We talked about Terry Bradshaw and Joe Montana for years. Now it's Tom. And then when Patrick was asked that question, he's like, I'm not even halfway. I'm not even thinking about it. The competitor in you is thinking about it. You want to get those championships because you never know when you're going to get back to this point. So now I'd shift that over to the Chiefs. If Patrick is in it, man, I want him to go out there and win it, man. I really do.
And you mentioned that maybe Patrick's not thinking about it, but I am, because I know how important 3-1 versus 2-2 is in the Super Bowl for his legacy and chasing Patrick Mahomes. So can you talk a little bit about that, how important that 3-1 is, Mark, to get to if he does want to catch those 7 Super Bowls that Tom Brady has?
And that's it. I mean, if people talk about, he went to 10 Super Bowl, but yet they talk about the losses. No, the thing with that is, and what makes it oppressive is the fact that when you get to this particular point, when you leave the field, either you're a champion or you're not. Doesn't get any clearer than that. It's one thing being an NFC championship or AFC championship game, but no, this is where you want to be. And when you have that experience, and of course, as teams change and you have younger players or newer players who are new to your team, when you have that veteran guy to say, guys, I got this, let's calm down. The players can take control of those conversations. It's not always the coaches having to tell these players what to do. You understand the expectations. And not only when you're talking about Mahomes, you're talking about Kelsey, and you're talking about all of these veteran guys. Hey, man, that's what makes great teams, when players are able to police themselves and don't have to worry about coaches doing that.
Charlie, you're a Pittsburgh guy, obviously a great one with the Steelers, Super Bowl champion. We witnessed an interesting phenomenon heading into the AFC Championship game, which was Steelers fans saying, I hate to do it. I hate to say it, but we got to cheer for the Baltimore Ravens. We got to get these Chiefs out of here. From a divisional standpoint, it's something I can't comprehend because I'm like, wait, if the Ravens are out there doing that, shouldn't that be us right now?
It should be, but I think when you beat that team, when you beat a team that you're when the Chiefs are playing against, meaning Steelers beat the Ravens twice. you give the other team blueprints on how to go out there and do that. And I look at this and it's very similar to our Super Bowl run in 2005. Whenever the Colts, they were 14-0 at one point, and everybody was talking about going through undefeated, but yet the Chargers went in there into Indianapolis and beat them. That gave us the blueprint 3 weeks later to say, we're going to go back and study that film. And literally everything San Diego did, 3-4 defense, we emulated that and went into Indianapolis, got on top of them. We ended up beating the Colts in their home, in their stadium. And then we had to go to Denver the following week. That's very similar to what just happened here. Okay, you better believe the Chiefs went back and said, okay, look at the Steelers defense and see how they went and how they attacked the Baltimore Ravens and ultimately allowed the Chiefs to go out there and make the plays necessary to come out of that M&T Stadium with a victory.
I want to ask you about Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy. Everyone's saying this is the worst year of Patrick Mahomes' career because of the receiver problems and the issues and the skill players. But Brock Purdy, a lot of people want to call him elite, and then some people are trying to tear him down. Oh, look at the talent around him. He's got Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, this offensive line, Trent Williams, the left tackle. So talk about those two and just what you see in Brock Purdy that does make him this great quarterback that did lead them to the Super Bowl.
Well, I would much rather have that conversation versus saying, hey, you have the talent in the manner of Josh Allen, but don't have the talent around you.
Yeah.
Right? So it's always a flip side to that particular conversation. But this is today's NFL. Today's NFL is built around a young quarterback on a minimal salary. Build around it until comes time to pay your quarterback. They can do this for the next couple of years. And then when it comes time to paying the quarterback, guess what? Somebody takes a haircut on the other side of another position, or they ultimately get released. That's just the business of the NFL here right now. So I love where he's at, but I think having the opportunity in week 1 to watch Brock Purdy in Acrisure Stadium against the Steelers and the throws that he were making in the course of that game, I said, now I can understand why they traded Trey Lance before the season, because they saw what he was capable of doing. And then ultimately being at this point made that decision well worth it. Hopefully they can, if they finish it off, he puts a cherry on the top. But it just gets to the point of the work that you have to put into it, regardless of the talent that you have around it. And Brock Purdy's been able to do so.
Charlie, I want to talk to you about, former players and the opportunities you have after football, because you do a lot of things. Whether it be radio, your podcast called Giving Legends that you do with Hannibal Navies now, you're here at Radio Row. A lot of former players get into coaching, but now there's so many opportunities out there where you don't have to put in the crazy amount of hours away from your family and not know where you're going to be coaching in 2 years. I mean, Eric Bieniemy coached 1 year at the Washington Commanders and he's out of there, and we're looking for something else. Cliff Kingsbury's in there now. So just the opportunities that you have, Giving Legends, doing the podcast that you do, and how important that is to you, and why you kind of chose that avenue instead of getting into coaching. You literally have the mind for it.
Yeah, and I think, that's something I really, I wanted to get away from and separate myself, from the player perspective and not ultimately jump into coaching. But getting into the media side allows me, to still be close to the game, but obviously feel a lot better on Mondays and not have to worry about those hits. But, there are many different ways that you can actually take this. And, and I think the pandemic helped create that, right?
Yeah.
Because it made everybody shift the thought process from now what traditional TV looks like. And then you saw everybody here with podcasts and now being able to do stuff out of your home. And it changed the whole dynamics of what this industry looks like now. Mm-hmm. And everybody, is still, doing, and kudos to everybody who's doing what they're doing. And then we just wanted to add one element to what we were doing with the podcast, was to say, hey, we're talking about the philanthropy aspect.
Yeah.
We could talk about sports. Let's talk about what you're passionate about off the field, right? Because as players, you're going to be former a lot longer than active.
Yes.
That's the reality of it. So what does that look like? And most people will probably be roughly 27, 28 when they're completely done with the game. So what does that look like for you? And you have to navigate that. NFL allows the platform to be there. Now it's up to you to network and now create what that avenue looks like for you. So we wanted to make sure that on the philanthropy aspect, if you're passionate about something in your foundation, maybe you're passionate about something else in your foundation, we want to highlight that. Because when you talk about philanthropy, as people don't look at it and then get excited about it. But more you talk about it, more people become interested and now obviously can follow what you're looking to do. So that's why we created the platform in that particular manner, allowing players and, anybody within the industry, entertainment industry, to come talk about some of the things that you're passionate about, because we want you to be a given legend and we want you to go out there and return it back to your community. Because at the end of the day, we didn't do this by ourselves. We had help at some point in our life, and we want to continue to relay that message no matter who's listening and what platform it's on.
That's great that you're like that you're very giving. And where does that come from? Because not everybody that gets out of football, like you said, would start a podcast, would highlight the philanthropy part of that. And of course, you're best of the Batch Foundation. So just talk about just kind of your giving nature and where that came from.
Yeah, for me, it started when I was back in Eastern Michigan. I lost my sister to senseless gang violence, and she was only 17 years old. And I said, if I was ever in position to give back, I would. So I ended up, I was drafted by the Lions in 1998. 99, January of 99, we started the foundation, which is called Best of the Batch Foundation. And then from there, did some one-off programming in Detroit. When I got to Pittsburgh, where I'm born and raised at, ended up, redirecting our foundation goals. And then from there, being able to now, recreate programming going into the educational space, because I didn't want these kids to only think of me as a football player, right? I want them to now say, hey, focus on school, do some things that you're passionate about. And if we can help navigate that, we'll do so. And to go from, we've now been around for 23 years and servicing 5,300 kids annually in 9 different counties, and to go from 5,300 square feet to 33,000 square feet. Now, the kids don't want to leave the building, and we're like, get excited about it. And that's why we do a lot of the things that we're doing. And it's just really special to see the reactions and everything of that nature. But again, that's my path, right? And it being able to tell it, and I can say, hey, here's where we were at the infancy stages, and if I can help smooth out some of those hurdles for you to get to where you want to get to, hey, I'm trying to give you that 10-year acceleration and not go through some of the challenges that we had to go through. And if we can do that, guess what? It ultimately impacts more and more kids, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, visit charliebatch.com where you can get more information on that, the podcast, everything that's going on with you, Charlie. I got to ask you, as a quarterback, I made this analogy all year talking about the Chiefs receiving room, which is that I'm terrified of snakes. The good news for me is snakes are not actively trying to kill me every day. If they were, I wouldn't be on Earth still. It seemed to us, maybe it's just us under a microscope in Kansas City, the Chiefs receiving room was actively trying to hurt and damage this football team. From a quarterback standpoint, you saw Patrick Mahomes, finally, it boiled over for him after they lost to the Buffalo Bills and Kadarius Toney's offsides. How do you funnel that energy as a quarterback, knowing that this receiving group is performing the way it is, hurting the team the way it is? And how do you get that back on track the way that they have done? That's maybe the most impressive part of this.
And I think the part is where, right now, the day and age, everybody's social media. So they're paying attention to what everybody's saying on there. And of course, the fans, they feel like they have an access to you because they can tweet at you or do these things and they can talk to you any type of way. And I think, Patrick, ultimately, when you become the veteran, these guys are getting younger and younger. You have to realize who you're talking to, right? And these are things as building relationships. They look at him as this GOAT. You're like, oh, I can't touch. But again, he's just a regular person and trying to show you I'm just one of the guys.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he is. And I can only assume he has to be doing the right things, but when the practice is over and maybe, have an opportunity to fellowship with those guys. But again, I can talk to you one way. I talk to you differently. You might have a guy you might like to be cursed at, to be motivated. You don't need to curse at, right? You talk to me intelligent if you use your words and get your point across. You have to know who you're dealing with. And I only say that because the further I got in my career, I remember 2012, 15 years in the NFL. Here I am, 38 years old. But yet you have a 21-year-old that's just entering into the league.
Right.
And you're looking like, and I remember one person said, hey, Charlie, when did you graduate high school? I said 92. And they turned over to one of our rookies. They said, when did you graduate? When were you born? He said 1992. So I'm like, oh, but again, you have to now realize and build relationships with these guys because everybody is different and it's okay. But you just have to be able to figure out, you have to spend time with people and understand what ticks. And once you understand what ticks, at that point, we can have a better communication process.
Talking about understanding people in the world of social media, just how much of that does make it into the locker room? How much do you know that maybe a guy's sensitive? He internalizes some of the things he's hearing on social media, and you need to go over to him and remind him to stay off social media. Don't listen to the negativity. Hey, we believe in you in this locker room. We support you, because we've heard a guy like Kadarius Toney, wide receiver for the Chiefs, go on Instagram Live, going back and forth, yelling at fans, and especially Giants fans coming in there, and Chiefs fans. Hey, you're dropping the ball. You're offsides. And he's getting in back and forth on Instagram Live, and that's not good for the team. And then there's questions from the team from the outside. Hey, what did you hear this Kadarius Toney thing? They're asking Andy Reid. Right. So what do you think of all that?
Yeah, I mean, I heard that and saw it. But again, it's, when you allow people into that space, they feel they can talk to you any type of way because they know they could trigger you, and they're going to try and guess what? That's the story. So I think ultimately he has to tone that down. But you can't shy away from the fact that, what goes on in media, because social media was like at the later stages of my career, so you didn't really have to deal with that. But one thing that I've always stated and I always share with our guys, if you're going to talk about it when it's good, you got to talk about it when it's bad. So don't be that guy when, hey, I had a good game and you're standing in front of your locker like, hey, come on over here. But then when you lose, you're the first one out. I'm showering. I don't want to talk today. Own up to that. And if you own up to it when it's good, own up to it when it's bad. So you just have to kind of understand that. But also, and that's one of the reasons why I don't use my phone and go live, because I never want anybody to now enter into my personal space when I don't want them to. That's just what it is. I give you what I want you to give, and I try to live a normal life. I'm not perfect by any means, but I don't have to show you the bad all the time. Yeah. Right? Just I'm gonna deal with it. Maybe I need just a social media break.
Yes.
And you'll do it. And people wonder what the heck going on because you haven't posted in a long time. But people who genuinely care about you, they'll reach out to you if and that's why you need a tight circle to make sure that you're able to separate these two things.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown, words to live by there. Charlie, as we get into predictions here before we kick you loose, I mean, Chiefs Niners, the Chiefs are a slight underdog. Somehow this Chiefs team keeps finding a way to make stuff like that really fuel them. It seems like that sometimes they have to manufacture reasons to feel like that it's them against the world. But if I handed you my phone right now with the DraftKings app pulled up, who are you betting on, and what's this going to look like?
Well, since I'm under your account,
right.
man, boy, I'm betting it all in.
So
since it's your account, I mean, yeah, your funds are in there, not mine. Since you're telling me it's your phone.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, I feel like the Chiefs are going to win this game. And I think because of the experience that you have with Patrick Mahomes, he's not going to make that mistake. And they try to crowd that box. Guess what? He's going to make those guys, he can make you pay for it. And then anytime he gets to this particular point, I want to see him now get to that point. And to your point, 3-1, get to win that Super Bowl. And I just want to see him get to that point because I just remember it was his very first season. And he was at the Super Bowl in Minnesota, had an opportunity to talk to him. And we're literally at, a party and he's just sitting there and everybody's having a good time. And he's just like frowning and kind of frustrated. I'm just like, you okay? And you can just kind of see it just in his mind. It was like, I don't want to be the spectator at this event. Yeah. And literally he had a heck of a run. And here he is all these years later, still either in the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. But that's just a competitor and how he's wired. And I had the privilege of seeing that many years ago. He did not want to be in part of Super Bowl week without being in the Super Bowl. And I love that. And I'm a root for that guy.
One last quick thing here. We got a comment in here that says, it's talking to me. Isn't he your favorite player? Yes, Charlie Batch is my favorite player back from his Lion days. I am always bringing it up and defending you because people are like, oh, you went on to Pittsburgh. I'm like, hey, he beat the Browns and beat the Packers. And if not, the Steelers don't go to the playoffs and win that Super Bowl. And I always loved you in Detroit. And hey, the Chiefs play the Steelers up there in Pittsburgh. We got to come take you out to dinner. Have a great night.
Absolutely. When you come into town, please let me know. Seriously.
Hopefully is Jerome Bettis' place still open?
No, they actually just it didn't make it past the pandemic. So they're actually putting he had a heck of I think it was 10-15 year run that he actually had with that restaurant.
That was such a cool place.
Yes, it was.
Pittsburgh's awesome.
And they literally just change it over. So either way, but there's great places to eat down there. So hopefully when you book your travels, get there early enough so you put the flight delays in there as well so we can go out there and chop it up, enjoy Pittsburgh.
Oh, we will do it. Oh, with Starcade Media, Klitz White, Noah Groniger. This is Charlie Batch. We're going to be here all week. The fun's just begun. In the words of Karen Carpenter and Ric Flair, we've only just begun.
Thank you, Charlie. Always an honor.
Not appreciate you.